This is just a Salesforce org. This could be any org, as generic as it can be. It doesn't really matter what edition or what license types your users are running under. Our product hangs off of the standard account object, and it also leverages the standard contact object, which is every Salesforce org and available to essentially every licensed user type in Salesforce. Our product does have a very, very light object model that goes with it, meaning we create and install a few managed objects in your org, much like virtually every other managed package does. And there are some custom settings where you indicate, where you put your credentials, essentially, that we give you to interact with our API. So this whole product really came out of a project that we started about a year ago to build a brand new modern web API on top of our deployment platform. Almost since the inception, we had a SOAP-based API, which we've used for a number of large clients in a very machine-to-machine integration model, and that continues to be used every day, all day as we speak, in terms of getting orders in from some very large enterprises into our deployment platform. But we realized we needed a lighter weight, more modern, more interactive API that could really allow us to do a lot more things in a lot simpler, more lighter weight way. And so we have clients that are developing and have developed and are live against the web API directly. Say they've integrated their NetSuite's environment directly into our deployment services using the web API. But we've also decided to eat our own dog food and develop our own client right in Salesforce to consume our own API, which has been good in a number of ways. Again, we have clients that are using Salesforce. They want to interact with our deployment services. They don't want to have to do coding. So this is what I'm going to be showing you today, is essentially the functionality of the web API. So it kind of all starts with an account. Any account. We do, again, install a couple of objects, which you'll see here. We've got a POS order and a POS solution object, and I'll kind of explain what those are and how they work. Otherwise, this is just a standard account page with the standard Salesforce stuff, like contacts, opportunities, cases, and whatever else you may have on your accounts page layout. So if you're looking at an order that's already been placed, either for an account, or maybe you found it from the orders tab, or you just did a search by the order number and you came up with an order, however you got to that order and you want to display that order, that's a very simple use case where we're just reaching out to the API in real time and we're displaying all the detail of that order. All that detail is not sitting in your Salesforce org. The only thing that's in your Salesforce org is a very lightweight, what we call a header object, just representing the basic searchable things about that order that are in your org. And that also will drive nice dashboards and reports. So high-level stuff you can report on natively in your Salesforce org. But when you want to reach out to get detailed information like the contents of an order, tracking numbers, serial numbers, who signed for it, when, what the terminal numbers and download IDs and all that stuff, that's coming from our system in real time, just as if you're looking at it from our legacy web application. So there's no latency at all in terms of the timeliness of the data you're looking at. It's just being brought into your org in real time and displayed in a native Salesforce UI. So that's a very simple use case of just looking at an order that was placed some time ago, and you're tracking it or answering customer service questions or whatever. You're just pulling that order up. And as I said, I'll just cut this in my clipboard here. But if you're on the home page or you're doing customer service and somebody has an order number or a phone number or an email address, you can search using the native Salesforce search functionality and pull that order up there, so you don't have to know which account to go to. But it all does conveniently aggregate under the account because we envision that's where you're doing your CRM for your merchants. Okay, so for the things that are actually shipped and installed in a merchant, as they originate as part of an order, which I'll show you in a minute, but once they get shipped out by POS Portal, now they have a serial number, they have an install date, they have a status, they might get returned. These are the kinds of things you also will be doing support on. So we have a record of those in the system, and when we pull those up, you can see the data. If you need to see what order they came in on, you can do that. We can, allow you to invoke a return for that equipment right from this UI here. Basically, this works just the way it does in our Merchant Control Center app. You give us a reason you're returning it, maybe some notes, and we just create the return order, and that gets saved and landed back on the account. But let me back up a little bit and go just to like a regular deployment order. So you have a merchant, maybe you're just setting this merchant up and you want to create a new order. Much like you do in our MCC web app, you have a merchant profile and you say I want a new order. All the information about the account will obviously pre-populate on the order. Of course, you can also indicate, how you want it shipped and so forth. We have this notion of order templates where you can build as many order templates as you like, and those order templates can pre-populate or speed load your order, even indicate things like the shipping service level and the preferred carrier. Then all you'd have to do is put in the specific information, like maybe which application you want, which injection key you want, on so forth, and then just boom, create the order. So it's like a couple clicks to create a standard order if you do the same kind of order over and over and over from a template. Of course, you can also interact with your catalog in real time. The catalog we've set up for you, kind of analogous to how we do it in our merchant control. Like if you say, oh, I'm interested in new equipment, and then the subcategories, just reach out to the API. Every time you see a little spinner, by the way, it's touching our API, and I'm interested in contactless terminal print pads. Let's see what I got in my catalog. I can see those. I can actually place the order for those. I'm going to shut down my sidebar here. This resolution on this monitor is really bad. And I can add things to my catalog here. I could add supplies. I could search for things if I know the POS portal part number. Maybe I know the manufacturer part number, or at least I just want to search for things from Verifone, so on and so forth. So it's really just a way to interact with our catalog. We think our clients, for the most part, are going to set up templates to do most of their ordering. That makes it really super easy and kind of foolproof. And once the order is set up the way they want it, they simply create the order. Now, depending on how you have it configured to work, for ship quotes and costs, we don't know how much shipping is going to be until we know what's on the order, where it's going. So we have this order. You can actually create the order. It's still in a draft mode. You can do things to it. You'll notice a lot of other things pre-populated on the order. This has to do with the metadata that we set up, and auto-pop rules and collateral packages and so forth that are on our side that we maintain, that you don't have to worry about. We know that when you order this thing, you need a power supply, you need a cable, you need an Apple Pay decal kit. All that is stuff that is pre-configured by the account managers for when you're ordering certain things. You also notice now we have a freight cost coming back, because we do know that it's going to, Texas, and it has this weight, and we're asking for a second day. But you can then make decisions and change the service level if you want to. It will reach back out and recalculate the order totals. And so it allows you to interact with the order. And once you're happy with it, you can add and remove things. You go ahead and submit that order. Boom, it goes into our fulfillment shop in real time. We begin to fulfill that order. There's this notion of a webhook or events management system, so that as we progress in fulfilling this order, we're going to start updating your system, and that's just going to happen automatically in the background. You're going to start seeing the order status change. You're going to start seeing serial numbers added to it. You're going to see tracking numbers, packages essentially, and the order is going to go from open to eventually shipped, and then you're off and running. You can set up, if you want to, workflow rules on your side, or do email notifications if you want the originator of the order to be notified when it's shipped, or notified when it changes status. That's just workflow on the Salesforce side. You can also set it up so that every order that your users create are automatically added to their chatter feed, and so they'll be able to just follow orders in their chatter feed on their mobile app or whatever. So there's lots of options in terms of how your users are notified when the order progresses through the platform. What I can't show today, but what we're working on, it's currently in development, is our ticketing system will also be surfaced through this app, so that if you have if there's a problem with one of your orders, and one of our downloaders or associates in one of our distribution centers needs to reach out and ask for clarification, it will use what we call a ticket system, and the ticket will come back into this org. The originator of the order will be notified, or will go to a queue on your side, and then somebody will have to respond to our inquiry so we know what to do with the order in the event of an exception. So that's, I can't show that today. That's in development. Should be released within the next couple of weeks, and would be available through this interface. As I said, the object model, although simple, is powerful enough to drive reporting. I can see here my order history, both in the record count of orders and the dollar volume. I can see the different types of orders I'm placing. I can see the manufacturers of product that I'm installing. I can see how many open orders I have, and then a funnel of how many are in what status. I can go back and see all the open orders going back. You shouldn't see too many days back, but allow you to sort of monitor us and how we're doing if you've got open orders that are aging, things like that. And we or you can build many more reports based upon the native object model that is in your Salesforce org. And again, I mentioned order templates. You can create as many order templates as you like. I just created 2 here in this demo org. You name it whatever you want. You put whatever items from the catalog that you want and whatever quantities you want. You specify the shipping level and or the preferred carrier. If it's part of a deployment project, I don't have any set up in this org, you'll be able to associate it with the deployment project as well. Again, to make the order creation process, on the floor as simple as possible as your associates are I don't even want to say keying in these orders, because generally there's not going to be any keying when they go to place a new order. Assuming you start with an account and maybe that account has contacts, then it's really just a matter of, okay, I got a new order, say it's a standard NMD, I'll pick in a standard NMD from here, if that's one of your things, and you basically just proof it, maybe add some more information. We'll probably end up putting the application and injection, device configuration is something that is a new concept for us. We're going to probably surface that to the template, so you can even specify those things in the template. So really make it almost our goal is one click. You pick the template, you proof everything, and you submit the order. That's our goal for, the routine orders that you would be placing in your org.
And earlier you had showed us RMA option. By the way, this is Sultan speaking here. There was a return order. Now, can you do you guys sync back up like replacement shipment tracking information and everything that's related to that? We'll call it a swap for this purpose.
Yeah. So what you do is, however you find that unit, you can search for a serial number. You can find the original order. I'll just go home here, so I'm sure there's nothing up my sleeve. You can do a serial number search, order number search, however you get to that piece of equipment that needs to be replaced. The merchant's on the phone, you've pulled up their account, and they said, gee, that thing I just got back on the 22nd, I'm Bob Smith, isn't working. I could pull up the order and go, yeah, okay, we'll go through the troubleshooting. Now we got to swap it out. I'm going to click the serial number there. I'm going to swap it out. I'm going to tell POS Portal, okay, it's not operating. It's not even powering up. Put in some descriptive notes for our people, and we're going to go ahead and create the return order. We're going to replace the unit. You can just do a straight return, or you can do a swap. That's what's happening here is the swap. So it takes a minute to process that, but essentially what you get back from us is a swap order that's going to be fully formed up and ready to go, and all you have to do is submit it. So this is a swap order. We've got a return status here, so we're going to be not only tracking the outbound swap order, which is going to inherit all the configuration, all the quantities it needs, and essentially all I have to do is say submit this order.
And what I was just going to ask before you I was going to ask if it replicates the order and whether that can be modified. So let's just say it went out with the wrong injection or something.
Exactly. I jumped the gun on your question, but that was just right. So that's why when you first create the swap order, it starts in a draft mode where it's fully interactive and you can change anything about it you want or you need to. And then it was because I hit create order that things got locked down, and now it's off in our fulfillment center. Of course, I'm in a sandbox. It's not really, But we have the status open. So now we're retrieving this object. So you will be able to track in your org all the objects that we're waiting for to come back. And the arrangement is, right, we give you a certain amount of time to get those back, Marshall, or how much discussions you've had. But this allows you to track what we call the delinquent call tags. So you know if which ones are in danger of you're getting charged for because we haven't gotten them back. All that can be tracked right from in your org here. So that's how you do a swap. Yeah.
All right.
So the system is by design pretty simple. So it's also pretty easy to demo. That's kind of it in terms of how it works.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? We can get into more detail, technical details at some point. We can show you the objects. But essentially the main objects are the orders, the POS solutions, we used to call those terminals, and then the order template metadata to set up and maintain all your templates. And that's kind of it. We don't store a lot of data in your org. We don't want you to have to pay for storage costs. We don't want to have to try to synchronize all that data in real time. The other thing the system does is there's a thing called order discovery. There's a scheduled job that runs, well, as often as you want to schedule it. We will recommend at least once a day, maybe even once an hour, that wakes up in your org and reaches out through the API to POS Portal and says, are there any new orders that I need to bring into my system? Even if the orders didn't originate through Salesforce, even if you had some users for a period of time originating orders through our Merchant Control Center web app, those orders would still be swept into the org through the order discovery process. Any orders that needed updates on them would be swept in as well. Any terminal solutions that we're waiting for statuses back on would be swept in as well. So essentially your org is updating itself on a regular basis, and you could be every 10 minutes if you like, to pull in all that relevant information. So we don't have to have a user account in your org. We don't have to push any data into your org, which is always a security concern. It's all your org reaching out to our API and pulling data in. So it's very secure. Again, you don't have to create any credentials for POS Portal. We give you a web API authentication. We give you basically what's called an API key and a crypto key. The crypto key is like a shared secret. All that data, as you're interfacing with our API, you are encrypting your data with this crypto key, and by us decrypting it, we know that's you. And we know that request is legitimate. It's coming from your authenticated org, and you're associated with this client on our side. It's called HMAC, and it's Hash Map Authentication Control, I think is what that stands for. So we are leveraging that technology, which is the same that Amazon uses in their APIs and Google uses in their APIs. It's very lightweight, and your users don't have to be aware of any of it.
So in the case where, let's just say, for example, that API is down, I assume you have a web console where those orders can be placed through, and does it offer the same simplicity as far as placing orders, creating templates, and so forth from the web portal?
Yeah, so, hey, good question. The API is, it's architected to live on many mutually redundant servers, so we hope to have really good uptime. We have 2 data centers, one in Sacramento and a cage, and one in Las Vegas for mutual redundancy. So we try to have good uptime, but certainly things can happen. Just because our API is maybe down, your org is still up in Salesforce, so of course it doesn't affect any of your other functionality. And yes, at least for probably out into the future, although maybe a different version, your users could still go to our Merchant Control Center web application and place the order. Although, in all fairness, if the web API is down, it's possible that app is down as well. The web API is a lot more modern, a lot more internally redundant, so it's going to have the best uptime of any system that we host.
Okay, so your web portal is based off Salesforce, all kind of tied in together.
No, our web portal is a private cloud app. It's a Java-based app that runs in our own data centers, but they all do hit the same database. But they all have to hit the same back-end ERP database to be able to talk to each other. Because if you have a user that goes to our Merchant Control Center web application, the console, and they place an order, that order is immediately available and visible here in your Salesforce org, and vice versa. So they're all talking to the same back-end database, if you will.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey Ben, this is Joe, by the way. Chad, I just joined. Been here listening. Ben, could you just understand things will happen and things may go down, but from an uptime perspective, I mean, if we were to go ahead and just broadcast our uptime for MCC and other things and most of our systems, we're at like a 99 point something uptime right now?
I don't know what the numbers are. IT will have that, but it's, again, we have our incidents like everybody else. I'm not going to say we don't, but we certainly do our best to minimize that, especially during production hours, during standard business hours. We're not doing any maintenance or releases. We have release windows that we publish, so we really do try to minimize that. We have a lot of every client would be affected with an outage. The client's using our console, Merchant Control Center console, a client's using our old SOAP API, and of course clients using the web API.
And as far as API changes and so forth, do you guys proactively reach out to all your partners? And do you always consider backward compatibility there before you
Absolutely. So we have we're standing up a new website that has all of our API documentation on there. If you're using this product, you don't have to worry about it because it's our code. So we are, changes to the managed package, if there's some new functionality like tickets I talked about, we'll go through our QA process here, which is very robust, and will be offered up to you as a new version of the managed package. You, as the org owners, the org administrators, would be able to install that new version of the managed package in a sandbox and try it out. Make sure it's still working for you and none of your use cases are broken. And then, and only then, when you're comfortable, you would be able to install that new upgraded version of the managed package in your production org. So you have an opportunity to do your own QA if you want to, and we aren't going to step on your, we're not going to push any new code into your org. All we can do is say the new version is available, it's gone through our QA, here's the URL to download it. We recommend you download it in the sandbox first, just like any other managed package. So if you're writing to the API directly, though, and not using our managed package, then of course you're concerned about backwards compatibility. And by all means, we have automated regression tests that are ran through our QA department to make sure that we're always adding new functionality to this API. We're doing releases about every 2 weeks to the API because we're adding so much new functionality to it all the time as more clients are starting to write to it, and as we're starting to write to it internally, we are adding, like our e-commerce platforms are writing to our web API, that sort of thing. So we have internal and external customers, and we have to make sure that we run a full suite of regression tests, and that suite of regression tests grows with every release. We are also
real quickly on. I apologize before we jump off there. I have a hard stop as well. I just want to cover a couple of things. But in your managed solution, so let's just say, for example, we're using that where we just kind of press POS order. It kind of redirects to your system to look at all the details. With that same integration, without storing all the information on our end, can we query that for like reporting and so forth? So let's just say we want to know all the serial numbers that were shipped to XY locations and so forth. Can we do that through that service, or is that only through the fully accessible API?
Well, for the report you just mentioned, all serial numbers that are shipped to a certain location, that's native in your org. So you won't have, you can just build a report that has all the serial numbers shipped to whatever locations, and you're just going to have that information right in your org. A serial number is one of the things that we persist on the POS solution object, and that POS solution object is related to an account. So you can build native Salesforce reports for that, or if you wanted to call out to our API directly from your code, you could do that.
Okay. No, I mean, if it's already there, then and reportable, that's perfect.
Yeah. So you can. Our package will ship with a few standard reports. Of course, you can build your own, but say POS solution by OEM is just one quick report. So here it is by OEM, and here are all of the serial numbers we've shipped. We could also do it by clients or client type, or whatever else you have on your account object in your system could drive reports. So again, it's just an object model where the POS solution looks up to the POS order, the POS solution looks up to the account, the POS order also looks up to the account, and the POS solution also looks up to a product. So you can look at the data in a number of different ways if you want to see, how many places you have a particular product installed. Easy, it's right there. So all the information that's native in your Salesforce org is reportable right there in Salesforce. If you wanted to reach out to our API independent of the managed package, you could also do that. Let me just give you a quick little demo or a preview. I know we all have to go, but if you go to developer.posportal.com, what you'll see here is a website, and we're still building it. We recently hired a product manager whose job it is to build this website and to build content in it. But essentially, the take-home thing is the API documentation. It's using a system called Swagger, so it is always reading the API in real time, so all the new endpoints that we have, what the data models, what the verbs are we support, what error messages you could expect back, are all available in real time. And we're also going to allow you to be able to try it right from the documentation. We're working on that. So your developers will really be able to work with our API directly outside of our Salesforce Managed Package if your use cases demand that.